Hello everybody and welcome to Whisper2Scream April Showers Edition. My name is Bernard and I'm your host. There's been lots of rain that's been falling in recent times. Some of the rain has been detrimental while other rain has been refreshing. So now we're going to take the beginning of this program and do it nice and rough. But then we're going to do the finish nice and easy. Okay, we always like to begin with updates on past stories. One page is usually not enough about any story. So in a previous broadcast, we told you about how the average citizen, like us, are going to be supporting tax relief for the rich. We were told that tax relief for rich corporations would result in more jobs and higher pay for the average workaday person. So that kind of made it easier to swallow paying higher taxes and less write-offs. Now we find out that we are even supporting their personal wealth. And what do I mean by that? They can pass their personal wealth on to their heirs and even their friends and do it tax-free. And it's legal. So if you want to know more about how that works, then go to our previous broadcast in October of 2017. Well, true to the word, we will no longer have the SALT exemption, that is state and local tax exemptions. We who are homeowners already know we no longer have a write-off on our home mortgage loans. That's gone. Poof! So we will be paying out even more in taxes. In a previous broadcast, we talked about the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Act and Consumer Protection Program. This program was enacted under the Obama administration and it was dismantled under the Trump administration. What we want to say today is the protection you used to have as a consumer under this act is gone. Poof! That means your investment agent does not have to explain all the pitfalls of your investment. He or she is now obligated to only make money for the company, and you as a consumer could profit from their efforts or you could lose. You're going to have to take greater responsibility for your own portfolio because you won't have much legal redress if you feel your investments failed because you weren't given full disclosure. You got to do your own homework, which is what we should do anyway. So if you want to know more about this act, go to Whisper2Scream, May 2017 broadcast. Now, here's some good news. In our previous broadcast, we told you about how the Trump administration killed the equal pay for men and women doing the same job. Well, just recently, the courts reversed that law. So now, women and men must be paid equal for doing the same job, regardless of past work history, which is where employers were rationalizing lower pay for women because traditionally women have been paid less. Now that's good news. Equal pay for men and women. Also, in our last broadcast, we began a series about law enforcement. For the majority of us, our first contact with the law enforcement is the police. We focused on minority policemen being the subject of racial prejudice within the ranks of the police force. Some said when they are in regular clothes, they fear their fellow blue uniform comrades. And today, as we promised in our last broadcast, we're going to show 5 cases where 5 suspects brandishing guns managed to live during the commission of a crime and not be shot or killed. And then we're going to show you 5 cases where people of color were shot and or killed and not even have a weapon and even be blamed for their own demise. So we're going to list them with a brief synopsis of what happened. The 5 white people who were armed and were not shot or killed. There's James Holmes. He's a white male. He walked into a movie theater in Aurora, Colorado. He killed 12 people and wounded 70 others. He wasn't even shot. He was arrested, stood trial, and is sentenced to life in prison. Robert Louis Deere, white male in Colorado also. He killed 3 people and wounded 9 at a Planned Parenthood clinic. Now, after a 5-hour standoff, he surrendered and was brought into custody, unharmed. Lance Tamayo, he's a white male. He pointed a loaded 9mm pistol at police near a park where small children were playing. Well, one policeman shot him one time to disarm him. Then they called his cell phone and proceeded to speak to him for 15 minutes to negotiate a surrender. Michael Brandon Hill, a white male, Atlanta, Georgia. He walked into an elementary school with an AK-47 and 500 rounds and said he was ready to die. At some point, he walked outside and fired off several rounds before he was apprehended without a stitch. Ricky DuBose and Donnie Rowe, two white men in Georgia. They killed two corrections officers, took over the van, and fled. Several days later, they were apprehended, meaning they were caught, and unharmed. Not a stitch. Now check out these 5 cases involving black or people of color. Let's start with Stephon Clark, black male, Sacramento, California, shot in his grandmother's backyard. 20 rounds fired by the police, 7 in his back and 1 in his shoulder, for a total of 8. Police said they feared for their lives. He had a cell phone in his hand, and the police had taken cover. Anthony Hill, a black male in DeKalb County, Georgia, fatally shot several times. Policemen said he feared for his life. Mr. Hill was unarmed and completely naked. Jordan Edwards, he's a black kid in Texas. He died from a shotgun wound as he rode in a car leaving a party, shot by a policeman who said he feared for his life. Now, the policeman lied and said that the car was driving backwards towards him in an aggressive manner. The dash cam showed just the opposite. The car was driving off in a normal manner. That honor student was just 15 years old. John Crawford, a black male, shot and killed by several white policemen in a Walmart. He was shopping for a toy rifle and had a toy rifle in his hands when he was shot and killed. Kendrick McDade, black male. He was running from police who shot him several times at close range. The person who called in that 911 said he made up the story because he wanted the police to show up as quick as possible for an entirely different matter. And Kendrick's last words before he died was, "Why did he shoot me?" This is a young kid. Now, don't get it twisted. When I need help, I'm going to call the police, and hopefully they will show up ready to uphold the law and do their job in a respectful manner like the majority of them do. It's just difficult to understand why the real ones don't weed out the most vile and criminal element among them. In future broadcasts, we will focus on this issue, as well as white dog behavior from some of our police force, and gypsy cops as well. We will also focus on police who risk their lives to promote trust in the communities that they serve. So stay woke for all that information right here on Whisper2Scream. Well, I know I'm not the only one who recognizes how our country is being polarized along racial lines and party lines. It doesn't feel good, but take a look at this clip. This guy serves up awareness we should all keep in the forefront of our minds. Check it out.
When we look around and we see today in our politics a rich white man telling working class white people that their problem is brown people, we need to understand the historical pedigree of that. That is symbolic of the entire history of race and class politics in America. The history of rich white people telling working class and poor white people that their problem are black and brown people. So beginning in the 1600s, that is what happens. Prior to about 1670 or so, there was no such thing as the white race, at least not recognized as such, called as such. That is not what people of European descent were when they were in Europe. They were English, they were Irish, they were Scottish, they were whatever they were. They were not white. Only in the colonies do we become white, and for a very specific reason, because in those early years of the colonial period, where you had white indentured servants, one level above enslaved themselves, and you had African-descended folks, some of them enslaved for life, others indentured servants also in the earliest years of the colonies. Those people would often see their interests as being common. They all realized that they were being screwed over by the same landowners, the same elite, They fomented various rebellions like Bacon's Rebellion in Virginia, others as well. And as a result, the elite in the colonies realized that they had to figure out a way to get the other folks from Europe on their team. So they created this mentality that said, you're now a member of the white race. You're on our team. You're wearing our uniform. Now, you're at the end of the bench. You may not get in the game, but you're on our team, you see. So then they start putting white folks, now called, on the slave patrols, right? Didn't really give them any land or any real power except the power to control people of color, which is why folks of color say, and they are right, that modern policing traces to the system of slave patrols and slavery. And we have to be clear on that because that's the history, right? So whiteness was created to divide and conquer, to create the notion that even though you might not have much, at least you're not black, at least you're not indigenous, at least you're not Mexican, at least you're not Chinese working on the railroads to build the transcontinental economy. You may not have much, but at least you have, as W.E.B. Du Bois said, the psychological wage of whiteness. And it's a trick that was played during the Civil War era on my people in the South, right? Rich folk, landowners in the South telling poor white folks who didn't own anything that they got to go out and fight to preserve the rich man's property in human beings. Fascinating. Why would you do that? Why would I go fight for your property? Well, because you told me that if I don't, these slaves are going to take my job. No, fool, they got your job. That's the point. If you got to charge $1 a day and you can make them work for free because you own them, guess who got the gig, Jack? Not you. So in fact, the system of enslavement was in the long run against the class interest of working class white folks, but they got suckered. Same thing happened in the union movement. You had white labor union folks who didn't want black and brown bodies in their union because it would reduce the professionalism of the craft. No, fool, it'll double the size of your union. And then when you go out on strike, they can't replace your happy ass with the brown folk that you didn't want next to you in the first place. Because when they do replace you with them, then you will blame them, not the elite. See how that works? It's a trick. And it has worked for hundreds of years. It is working on some folk right now. And it is our job to resist that with every fiber of our being.
Okay, with that in mind, let's talk about the ratchet practice of debtor's prison. I know that sounds like something from ancient times, or at least to the days of like the Three Musketeers. Only it's happening today, and it's legal. Debtors' prisons are supposed to be illegal here in the U.S., but people are getting locked up because they owe creditors money. Everything from credit card companies to mom and pop furniture stores. Here's how it works. This is how it goes down. Okay, you don't pay your bill. Then you get a summons to come to court to settle a debt. So you ignore the summons, or you don't even receive it. Your creditor requests a body attachment, which means an arrest warrant. So you get arrested, and you remain in jail until you get a court date or pay a bail, which is usually the amount of your loan, which may now include late fees and other charges set up by your creditor. Now, how you like them apples? That's how creditors are working now. And as messed up as it is legal. Okay, it's time for our AI segment. Artificial intelligence feature. This one is about a personal assistant. It's kind of fun, yet a little scary, as in futuristic. Yet, you can buy this product today.
I'm Cubic, and this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm your digital co-pilot, bridging the gap between you and all of your scattered technology. And talking to me is just like talking to a friend. It dropped to 50 overnight. I'd wear long sleeves. And a tie.
Why a tie?
You've got that meeting at 9 o'clock.
Oh, that's right. I completely blanked on that.
You should probably take the train. It'll be 18 minutes faster than driving.
What would I do without you, Cubic?
Go to work without a tie? But I'm not just at home. You can bring me anywhere. Game of Thrones tonight?
If I kill off Tyrion, I have no reason to live.
That's pretty funny. Want to tweet it?
Hey, you know what? Let's tweet it. Wait, this is not too dramatic, is it?
Maybe a little, but it's you.
What, am I dramatic?
The train is coming.
Email from Stan. Do you have the finals from yesterday's shoot?
They're in my Dropbox. Can you share that with him?
Just did.
And can you ask Matt if we're still on for tonight?
Sure thing.
Hey, Matt, nice tie.
Thanks, Doug.
So you're excited for Game of Thrones tonight?
Yeah. We can still go out, though.
Cubic, get the house ready. We're staying in tonight.
What about dinner?
Cubic, how many calories calories did I burn today?
1100. You are a fitness goddess.
Cubic, order everything I'll need to cook chicken parmesan. And wine. We'll need some wine.
Okay, let's do the finish nice and easy. This one's out of Canada. It's about a young woman named Revi Agupong. She has been suffering from sickle cell anemia for the past 6 years. Listen to her story.
Reve Ajapong inherited sickle cell disease. It meant from a very early age she lived in a world of pain.
Simple things like going swimming for anyone else, for me, could end up in a sickle cell crisis just because of the cold temperature of the water or temperature changes. I even went skating one time in Banff and then ended up in the hospital later that day.
The disease causes red blood cells to become misshapen, eventually clogging small blood vessels, causing bone deterioration, heart problems, and organ damage. Reve's had all of that and more. It seemed the disease sentenced her to an early death.
People with sickle cell anemia will often survive into their 40s or 50s.
Stephanie Amoa watched her little sister suffer. Together, they looked for a treatment and discovered stem cell transplants were curing children. But it still required a matching donor. Stephanie was tested.
A 10 out of 10 match, we were 100% match, and that it was a go. If Reve was ready, they could do it, and it was just phenomenal. Like, I cried.
In November, the pair underwent surgery at the Tom Baker Cancer Clinic in Calgary. It was complicated and risky, but ultimately successful. She's also excited that her success may make this treatment more available for other Canadians with sickle cell disease.
Now, she is the first adult in Canada to be cured of this disease through this method. You know, we always want to take it from a whisper to a scream. We ask you to spread this knowledge to your families, your fellow workers, and even strangers who you feel might benefit from this scream. Look for our next broadcast around the 16th of May and on the 16th of every month. So don't walk around frustrated and angry. Use your powers of information to achieve your goals. You can find us at Coon Tunes Productions here on YouTube, or at Coon Tunes 2 on Facebook, and at Coon Tunes 2 on Instagram. And please leave your comments in the section below. As always, stay woke and be blessed.